What's good, guys? In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to structure your training to yield the most results. Whether you want to increase athletic performance, get stronger, more explosive, faster, or you just want to fix your body, heal recurring aches and pains that you've had over the last few years that you haven't been able to get rid of, or you want to do a combination of both. You want to fix your body, feel good, and you want to perform really well. This video is going to cover how to structure your training in order to do so. So stick through till the end. I'm going to give you some really cool frameworks to think about your training in so that you can, on your own, whether you decide to work with me or not. Yeah, obviously I have a coaching program. Let that one go. Wasn't supposed to say that. Yes, I have a coaching program, but whether you decide to work with me or not, in this video, I want to give you the mental frameworks and the structure to actually understand training in a way that's going to allow you to yield those maximum results in the areas of healing your body and maximizing performance, as I said. So the first thing that you need to understand is that training is just this continuum between therapy, at least this is how I like to think about it, between therapy or healing and performance. A lot of people try and separate these two things. They try and be like, okay, I'm gonna do my rehab efforts and I'm gonna fix my knee and get pain-free and XYZ, right? And then they'll just get thrown into the wolves by their physio or their physical therapist, whoever they're seeing here, and they'll be like, okay, you're ready, you're functional now, so just go and train and play your sport. Your personal trainer or your coach, whoever it is who's taking care of that stuff, will get you right. They'll get you back to a place where you're able to do your sports and you'll be fine, right? So you get thrown, instead of following a nice gradual progression that blends into performance, you're just going straight from therapy to performance, right? Just making this huge jump. So you're doing things like clamshells. You're doing band. If you hurt your shoulder, you're doing band pull aparts. You're doing planks. They love that one. The physios, the PTs, they love planks. You're doing, what do you call those where you're standing on one leg? I guess single leg reaches. You're reaching in different planes of motion. Single leg reaches. And so you'll be doing stuff like this, and sure, I'm exaggerating a little bit. There's some sort of progression. Maybe instead of just regular clamshells, they'll have you do that version where you abduct both hips. So you're kind of lifting your hips off the ground and abducting the hips at the same time, making that little like side plank bridge. So there's some kind of progression here, but it doesn't progress you all the way to being able to perform at a high level, to be able to run and really sprint, depending on the sport that you do, to be able to jump, be able to cut, and be able to do all these things and more in a way where you're confident. Because it's one thing to jump, cut, and run in training the way that most people do it, and it's a whole nother ball game to do it in the field of play where there's higher stakes, there's more risk, there's other people, there's all these different variables that you have to account for. And so when you just get thrown right into this performance, obviously something is going to break because your body wasn't properly adapted in a way that was progressive. Because you just made that big jump, instead of slowly progressing and building on top of this base, like let's say these exercises are good and that they actually do properly build a base, which I have opinions on that, of course. If you've seen any of my videos, I think that there's better ways to build a quote unquote base and get to a place where you're pain-free ways that are better than this, but let's just, for the sake of this, say that this is the best way to build this foundation. Well, if you're just doing these things and you think about how this therapy versus performance spectrum is essentially just increasing intensity. So let's say like you have standing on one leg at the very end of this side. So here, just think single leg stand. So you're literally just learning how to balance on one leg, like maybe you hurt your ankle, right? And then the next step in that is that you're doing a single leg Bulgarian squat. So now SLB for single leg Bulgarian. And that'll be another step because you're still on one leg, you're still forced to balance, but now you have this strength component to it because you have to move at the knee joint and you have to move at the hip joint. There's just actually movement involved now. And then maybe you go from this single leg Bulgarian to SLBJ, single leg Bulgarian jump. So now you're going from this more strength-esque exercise. Maybe you load up the strength in a certain phase, and then you're getting into this jump now. So now you're doing the same thing. Maybe you even keep a similar weight, a similar kind of loading that you did in this phase, and now you're just adding a jump because now you're essentially expressing strength in a faster manner. So you're now incorporating power. That's the mix, the merge of strength and speed. That's power. So now you're working on power here. And then maybe you might start doing some skater squat type things. Some skater side to side hops rather. So you're still in that Bulgarian position. Now we're adding the dynamic of lateral movement, and then we're also exploding more. So instead of having it be weighted, you're just going to use body weight, and then you're just going to have it be more dynamic than any of these. So you're moving in multiple planes of motion. Instead of just going up and down, you're now maybe going a little bit up and down, but you're also going side to side. So your body has to resist all these different forces that weren't there in these previous phases or these previous variations of a single leg type movement pattern, right? So you do those skater hops, whatever you want to call them. And then maybe let's skip a few because there's infinite amounts of different variations that you could put in here and it'll be a logical progression, right? But let's say this goes all the way into a defensive stance. Defense in basketball, or you're, I don't know, you're playing in soccer or cornerback in football, whatever the case may be, you're in a defensive stance where you have to be in that squatted position, nice and low with the chest up, and you're basically maintaining these same principles all throughout. So you have elements of coordination, you have elements of balance, you have that ability to move and coordinate the knee, the ankle, and the hip all at once. And you're doing that in the most dynamic sense. You can do this at, let's say, one step of this progression is doing it just with very slow, chill offense you're defending, and then the next step is going to be in a full game. That's going to be the very most advanced aspect of this progression. So why did I lay this all out? Because what I want people to understand is that it's not about necessarily these specific progressions, these specific exercises within the progression. It's actually about the fundamental aspects that you're training within each of these progressions. And it's definitely something to argue about what aspects we're actually training. But in my opinion, what will yield the most results is actually focusing on the movement qualities that we are building up on. So for instance, you have in a single leg stand, you have the ability to, let's think you could still see this. Yep, distribute pressure through the foot. So that's just one aspect that you might be like, Steph, that sounds so simple. Well, a lot of people, when I tell them, hey, I want you to distribute that pressure through the pinky ball, the big ball, and the heel, and they'll have issues just doing that. I had somebody just now on an onboarding call. I was taking them through an assessment, and they had a really bad ankle sprain recently. They were back to playing for months now, back on the soccer pitch. But when I asked them to do this, they started wobbling all over the place. They couldn't hold themselves for more than 5, maybe 10 seconds at most at a time. And then I asked them to close their eyes, which increases the proprioceptive, the body awareness demand even more so. And it was impossible. And so when you focus on these things and then you scale them up, that's what's going to yield the best results. Because if you can't distribute your pressure, your weight through your foot the way that it's meant to hold pressure, the way that it's meant to hold weight, then what are you doing trying to be on this side of the spectrum? And that's the thing that people miss, is that there are these little details here in terms of how our body functions. Sorry, this is super messy and I'm writing sideways. But body function, when you do this, you focus on the fundamentals of body function, then you're able to scale properly and merge this gap so that therapy and performance are one, so that your training is always working on elements of rehab and therapy and making your body feel good. And it's also working on athleticism, on building fitness, on things that are the sexy things that people care about, you know? But once you get to a place where you're hurt, then you're of course going to care about this therapy stuff. But why not do both? If you can merge the two with these elements of body function, so distribution of pressure through the foot, you have your spinal alignment, you have your rib cage position, you have your deep core engagement. So literally things as simple as, I'll just do a little demonstration, things as simple as being able to essentially breathe while your core is tightened are so crucial. So a lot of people, I'll ask them, okay, take a nice exhale. They'll get everything nice and compact. Their core is nice and stable. But then I'm like, okay, keep that same tension and inhale for me. And then they'll just let their belly go. And it's super flaccid now. If that's happening at high speeds and high intensities, where you're just losing that pressure in your abdomen, what do you think is going to happen? Why do you think people have back pain and all these issues with their hips and everything like that? It's because they don't maintain that pressure through their core. So what I want to see is people be able to exhale, and then I take an inhale, and you see what happens. My chest, my abdomen, it kept the tension on the outside, but the interior actually inflated. It pressurized my entire abdominal cavity. And that's what we're talking about here. So you can say deep core, but you can just, in parentheses, I'll put pressure, because that pressure is so key. This is just one of many fundamental components of body function, of movement, that you need to understand and scale in order to merge therapy and performance. And this is how you stay pain-free and injury-free and maximize performance. So you're building this base in the proper way. That's what you need to understand if you are to be a beast. You're to be a resilient, injury-free beast. This is what you need to know. See you in the next one.